As South Africa continues to recognize the giant legal and political contribution made by lawyer George Bizos, dead at 92, we turn now to a family that he was intimately involved with. Bizos was junior counsel at the first inquest into the death of activist Ahmed Timol in 1971 and present again many years later at the second inquest about 3 years ago. I'm going to talk to his nephew, Imtiaz Cajee, who is with us on Thursday lunchtime. Imtiaz, good afternoon to you. As I've just mentioned, junior counsel at the first inquest. And I think fair to say that this case stayed with him all his life.
Good afternoon, Jeremy. No, most certainly. I mean, I would read about George Bizos in the newspaper cuttings that the family had kept from the time of my uncle's passing in 71. And his name kept on appearing in the 70s, in the 80s, at the TRC, and even in the democratic South Africa, fighting for truth and justice for many, many apartheid-era victims' families. So something that I think he was totally committed to. And you correctly state that even in the 2017 inquest, Jeremy, despite the fact that he testified, he practically came to court for the entire duration of the inquest, which spanned over 4 weeks. And that clearly demonstrated, his level of commitment, his fight for truth and justice, even in a democratic South Africa. So a very, very painful loss, Jeremy.
Let me take you back 3 years, if I can. When that decision was announced by the court, I seem to recall a conversation that you and I had. You told me that tears welled in his eyes when he found that your uncle was murdered and didn't commit suicide. Do you recall that moment and what he said to you?
No, most certainly, Jeremy. I treasure every single moment that I spent with him for the entire duration of the 2017 inquest. And, even before court proceedings would commence, he would share with me anecdotes. And I can tell you, Jeremy, every time he mentioned the name of Ahmed Timol, tears would roll down his cheeks. And I would just sit and I had to hold back my tears because I couldn't share tears with him. But to see him, over 46 years after my uncle's killing, still shedding tears, and most certainly, when the historic ruling was pronounced by Judge Motley, emphatic victory. I think not just for me, for Ahmed Timol, but for George Bizos and all the other families that he had represented. So absolutely, absolutely painful, to hear about his passing, Jeremy.
This is what he said: the judgment justifies our efforts. Justifies the efforts of the persons that helped me expose 8 murders which were ignored by the then apartheid government. As you rightly say, Imtiaz, he was always relentless in his pursuit of justice.
No, most certainly. I mean, it was one thing to fight against the apartheid regime, fighting for truth and justice for apartheid-era victims, Jeremy. But he continued that plight in a democratic South Africa. And, I will never forget January 2016, with our legal team led by Yasmin Suka. We go and meet the then National Director of Public Prosecution, Sean Abrams, and his senior directors. And Uncle George accompanies us. And he makes an impassionate plea in 2016 that please reopen this inquest because we demand truth and justice for these particular families. So most certainly he can never be forgotten, Jeremy.
Just to conclude and bring it to the here and now, if we can, your case, of course, isn't over, is it? You're still questioning a decision by the National Prosecuting Authority to take this further.
No, correct. It's on 2 fronts, Jeremy. On the Rodriguez matter, his legal team have petitioned the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein to dismiss the ruling of a full bench of the South Gauteng High Court, the 342A application. So we're waiting for the SCA to make a ruling on that. And on the issue of the other security branch officers, Neville Elst and Seth Sons, the National Prosecuting Authority has made a decision not to charge them because they feel there's insufficient evidence and due to the lengthy time delay. And hence our legal team has made representation to the NDPP, and we eagerly await an outcome from her, Jeremy.
And thank you for the update and also for the tribute that you have paid Imtiaz Cajee, the nephew of Ahmed Timol. We're going to bring